clock to make sure that it's right and exact. And they will get your they'll get your child's time of birth, get your time of birth wrong, right? If you're not keen. So
I
definitely,
just screenshot it when my daughter was born. I like screenshot
bam, right,
it
right,
right at the moment when she took that
exactly.
breath. You know,
You got it. So do
yeah.
those things. Make sure if you do have children, the opportunity that gives you the time of birth, take advantage. But just note that even my time of birth was wrong, right, by 5 minutes. So you just have to sometimes understand that when those times of births are produced, it's not like the doctor's really looking exactly at when the baby comes out and takes his first breath. So we've adjusted it, and it is 8:18. It fits very, very well, and you'll see why here in just a little bit. So,
And then
getting started, right? Owani, you can see, right? You got an opportunity to see. He's Gemini Ascendant, and if you've been following Kanye and know, some things about him, it definitely ties in very well, right? That Gemini has that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde disposition all the way, right? Can flip the script at a moment's notice, right?
right,
Uh, I mean, interestingly enough, when I actually looked at it earlier when we were talking about, we kind of had it off, it was Cancer Ascendant. I'm like, that is not Kanye, right? That doesn't fit, right? Where this Gemini is a and lock, stock, and barrel, right? Fits not only just for the simple fact that of his kind of um, you know switcheroo disposition, but just from the simple fact that he is a hip hop artist. He's a rapper, and it's interesting, right? We see Mercury slash setback on the case again, right? It's here, right? Like I
right.
said, interestingly enough, right? We've had this kind of somewhat similar scenario previously with this energy abounding. But hip hop artists definitely just when we look at Ice Cube, when we look at a lot of different ones, they just have that gift of gab, the ability to use words in a very creative and poetic way. So it does fit perfectly with what he does and produces as far as his skill sets are concerned. Um, Interestingly enough, and here's the thing, one of the things that we do look at in looking at a horoscope or a chart is that what sign is the ascendant lord in? It's in Taurus, right? Which is it's Venus ruled, right? Venus is all about creativity, right? Music, fine arts, right? Um, those are the things that we can clearly see, right? That he does bring to the table, bar none. Um, However, the nakshatra that he's born under, really, it behooves us to look at it from an Ardra perspective, because Ardra is a lot of the intensity, a lot of the unexpected kind of disposition that he produces. Ardra also creates a type of electric feel around his particular aura. And when you're around, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the haircut that he has, right? That, that's
What soldier?
Ardra, right?
Soldier said, "Who cut your hair, boy?"
Like, did you do that on purpose, or did you, right? Did you
he,
did
he,
you
he been rocking that for a little second. He said he called it. He's in the interview. He said he called it the Britney. You remember when Britney Spears uh,
right, right,
went
right?
and
And
he
and
cut it.
if you're lining with Britney Spears, right, and we already did a special on her, right, where she's got this whole conservatorship that's you know gone viral.
Right,
Um, you know, she's not, I don't say wrapped too tight, but there's a few floors missing from the building, right? If you
right.
will. So, that really ties into the Gemini and the Ardra. It really makes sense. Purnavasu can also, excuse me 1 second. Purnavasu can also kind of do some similar things, but Purnavasu has a lot more placid disposition, right? Ardra
Right.
really does fit very, very, very well. Especially looking at some of the other things that are happening within the other charts that we have, as far as the Navamsha and the D4. So the ascendant lord goes to the 12th house, right? Some things about the 12th house you may or may not know. The 12th house deals with neurotic tendencies, right? Um, right. And no, there's no other planets in his ascendant. Doesn't have to be, right? His ascendant lord, where it goes, creates a whole nother platform. And that 12th house being neurotic tendencies, you know what neurotic tendencies are, is where, you know, you do one thing and then you do another and then you do another almost within the same, you know, hour, 10 minutes, 15-minute time period. It's just you have a very, I don't want to say crazy, right? But a very erratic, right? And changeable nature. That's what the 12th house will do.
Well,
Right. It's neurotic. It's
yeah,
neurosis, right? Right.
right.
Um, the 12th house
We got to
is
both sign.
um, where you can be placed in
We
an
got to both
asylum,
sign that contract.
right?
Mark Parker. I'm
That's
gonna
what the
put
12th
Mark
house
Parker
is.
all on that Summer
Right?
Jam screen. And by the way, Mark Parker, yes, I will still accept
My bad. It's just going.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Um,
an
12th
investment in
house is
Donda. I got some more
hospitalization.
ideas that don't involve shoes.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. Go ahead.
It's all good. The 12th house is sanatoriums, right? Asylums, where neurotic tendencies are, of course, high on high display, right? So, clearly, seeing that this is how he's built, right? He has a disposition to lose it, as they say, right? And the 12th house deals with self undoing, loss, right? Um, it's really a house that a lot of times people will seek isolation. And it's interesting, my brother, you said, right? He doesn't do interviews that often, right?
No.
Considering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, he's got three other planets there, right? He's got Jupiter, right? And Sun. So, this is another telltale that someone that has this kind of disposition with the Ascendant Lord has a type of unstable type disposition or character, especially with, of course, Gemini being the Ascendant. Now, his Ascendant Lord is in Kritika, right? And Kritika is that part of Taurus that is no joke, right? It is an intense part of Taurus.
Right.
It's very sharp, very determined, um, almost relentless to a degree, right? So, it makes sense that his ascendant lord would be placed in this particular nakshatra because that then shapes further the ascendant in the sense that that fiery energy comes to the surface, right? And the sun which rules Kritika is in the same house, in the 12th house of losing your mental composure. Mercury is also the planet of what? Your intellect and your ability to process information properly. So a
Right.
lot of times creative people are just that way, you know what I mean? Like creative people are just that type of, you know, the creative, right? They kind of go here, they go there. Not all, but many, right?
Right.
So it just ties in very, very well with his characterization.
I got a good example of that. Right. Queued up. It started trying to go off before me, but
Let's hear it.
We got to
Let's
both
hear it.
sign that contract. Mark Parker. I'm going to put Mark Parker all on that Summer Jam screen. And by the way, Mark Parker, yes, I will still accept an investment in Donda. I got some more ideas that don't involve shoes. But if you guys are investing in the arts, y'all want to invest in this school in Brazil, y'all want to go to Africa, I'm standing up and I'm telling you, Warhol, I am the number one most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. Walt Disney, Nike, Google. Now, who's going to be the Medici family and stand up and let me create more? Or do you want to marginalize me till I'm out of my moment?
Or why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
Kanye,
I've been doing this more than you.
Doing what
You ain't got.
me? Come on, chill out.
You
bro.
ain't got the answers.
Kanye,
You ain't got the answers.
I'm asking you.
You
a
ain't been doing the education,
bro.
You ain't been doing the education.
Kanye, calm down.
You don't have the answers though,
Calm down.
because you trying to give me advice about something. You ain't got the answer. You ain't spent $13 million of your own money trying to empower yourself.
Yes, but I spent hundreds of thousands and putting out clothing lines at a smaller degree. All I'm asking you,
and it ain't no Ralph though.
It
ain't
Ralph.
Ralph.
Let me ask you this.
What's the name of the clothing line? We don't know.
Man.
He said it ain't Ralph though.
Wow. You see what I'm saying? Like half of that didn't even make sense, right? It was like, what? You're gonna do what, where, and how, and what? And that intensity is that Kritika, right? Kritika can be quite adamant about how they feel, right? So, it's just interesting to see this, right? It plays out to the T. Just imagine, a Gemini with a sharp edge, right? He has that disposition, and then Ardra just puts the cherry on top.
Right.
So, go figure, right? That this individual has a very heartfelt, right? He feels what he's talking about. Can't deny that. But the instability is quite evident, and neurotic or neurosis type behavior patterns are displayed. At some point they were talking about even putting him in a special place, right? I believe his mate or wife at the time, Kim Kardashian, was talking about he needs to be placed into a special place, right? 12th house place.
Right.
And I could see to some degree what would be the reasoning behind saying something like that, especially if you're living in close quarters with this type of individual.
I mean, looking at him, and like I said, I went over this on the Patreon. One thing it's just like, it's like you have so much that's in your head, so much that's just running through your mind and all this stuff like that, and you don't know what to do with all of it. You know what I mean? So then it just explodes. It just, you know what I mean? It's like, I got this, and like, all right, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna run. This came to my mind. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna do that. I want to do this. I want to, you know what I mean? And it's, it's intense.
Yeah,
definitely.
And hopefully, drugs aren't your friend, right? If you're doing them, that definitely gonna creates a further mental instability. So it just shows, a lot of telltale signs that this is his setup, this is his makeup. Even looking at the moon, right? And moon is in the ninth, it's in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, folks. When you look at a chart, when you look at a horoscope, you're looking at it from the same thing, but from different perspectives, different layers. So you pull one layer back, or you add a layer, you superimpose layers, right? Then you get a good understanding of what you're looking at. So a couple of things happens with the moon. Number one, his mental disposition. He is a very intelligent individual. You don't get this far with having a lack of mental ability, right? When I say mental ability, I mean the ability to process things from a higher perspective, right?
Right.
However, right, it is an Aquarius, right? And Aquarius is one of those signs that is quirky, right? It's odd, right?
Right.
It's different,
Mm-hmm.
eclectic, right? Pulls from different places, different spaces, all at the same time. Like you were talking about, having all of those things come in and filter, try to come out at once, right? But But the moon is the heart, right? It's the emotional characterization of an individual. And so his heart, right, is just that. It's very um, uh, out of touch and almost touching on a borderline of futuristic type of settings, right? If you look at it, the shoes that he produces, I remember back in, 90s, right, 80s, you would see kind of in fact, if you look at what's the Back to the Future, right, type
Right.
movies, right, they always show the future as everyone wearing this kind of weird, like haircut with weird glasses, and actually we are there. I mean, it has played itself out to a great degree, but
Right.
his shoe line
It's
is
like
that
right on
has
par.
that look, right? It has that
Right.
futuristic kind of, energy to it. And so it makes sense because the moon is in that type of sign. The Aquarius kind of is before their time, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, so the other thing
And that
though, go ahead.
and that nakshatra, man. He has a lot of
Well,
he's
I was about to go there, right? You said it, I didn't, right?
Mhm.
Purva Bhadrapada is that nakshatra that has two faces, right? Not to say they're two faced. It's not what I mean. It means that they have a side that they show and a side that they don't show. But because of this Gemini disposition, right, his innate characterization just flips the script. So it comes out, right? It releases. And the ninth house is a visible house, right? From the first house to the seventh house, well, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth are hidden houses, right?
Mhm.
Right. And seventh is both because seventh can be above and below the horizon. So 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 and 12 are all visible houses. They're actually seen in the sky. And so his dispositions are on his characterizations and his personality kind of curvatures are on display. So it's hard to hide that moon. Hard to hide his emotional disposition. But Purva Bhadrapada gives him that intensity. The deity of Purva Bhadrapada is called Eka. Um, um, I don't even go there. It's called a fire dragon, right? A fire dragon, right? Meaning that it's an intense nakshatra. It's very fierce. The totem for it is a male lion, right? So you can see that type of energy when he comes from his heart, right? From his emotions, from his experiences and how he filters reality. This is what you're getting is that intensity from the fire dragon nakshatra, right? So he has a lot of fire, even though you don't see fire signs. And actually, there is a planet in fire sign, is Mars and Venus, two planets, in fact, right? In fact, those two planets, right, which and it's the planet that rules Mercury, is conjunct Mars by degree, right? So he's got some heat that he produces. Nakshatras have a way to produce things that is different than the expected outcome, right? Purvabhadra Rapada is one of the nakshatras that really can bring home a lot of insanity, right? Not to say he's insane, but the nakshatra can be one that's hard to handle if the planets aren't placed very well. And the ruler of the nakshatra is Jupiter. And look what sign look what house it's in, right? It's in the 12th house, right? Of those neurotic tendencies. So there's a lot going on here, right? With the 12th house. Lot going on with the 12th house. A lot of unstable or destabilizing type of situations that he brings forth, right?